This is Tampa. This is my home, full of hidden treasures and a vast culinary culture. Our rich history leads to an even brighter future. We'll talk to locals who know the ropes, find the flavor of the city, and explore Tampa's remarkable past. Coming up, Tampa's diversity is clearly showcased in the restaurant choices available to you. Join us at a downtown Tampa favorite, the Jerk Hut Mine, where we're going to learn what goes into that jerk seasoning. Next, we're going to prepare you so that you and your family can be safe this hurricane season. Lastly, we're going to take a step back in time. 1926 was the year Tampa Theater first opened its doors. Well, the theater is still thriving today, and we're going to take you behind the scenes in that historic Tampa landmark. If you have a craving, then you can bet you can find it in downtown Tampa. From Indian to Italian or Vietnamese, the options abound. And if you're in the mood for some Jamaican jerk spice, then step into the Jerk Hut, where the flavor of Jamaica awaits. Where do you want to go, Jacqueline?
I hear the Jerk Hut's good. Let's give it a try.
Let's do it. Andrew, thank you so much for taking some time to talk with me today, because I absolutely love Jamaican food, love the Jamaican culture, but don't really know a whole lot about it. Tell me a little bit about the foods, the culture, everything.
Well, I would say Jamaican food is a combination of just about, everyone who settled Jamaica. We started off with the Arawak Indians, where, they're the ones that brought us actually the whole jerk thing. Let me talk about jerk a little bit first.
You don't call me a jerk.
Yeah. Well, jerk is, kind of our little Jamaican way of making barbecue. And the spices that we use in jerk is we use like peppers, thyme, pimento, sometimes a little bit of ginger, and then some other stuff like nutmeg, cinnamon, which normal people don't really use that in cooking meat. Way back when they didn't have refrigeration or anything like that, they used jerk as a way of preserving the meat, and
So it was more than just flavor. There was a purpose.
Oh, definitely. Here I brought some of the stuff that we use. We use fresh thyme. We actually make our own stuff here. That's fresh thyme. These are allspice berries. They kind of taste like a combination of cloves, nutmeg, and cinnamon. We actually use cinnamon in it also. We actually use a little bit more nutmeg, and then, generally we use Scotch bonnet peppers or Jamaican hot peppers. We use fresh, what we call green onion scallions, and we make up like a little paste, and then we rub it on. We also have a dry part. Yeah, actually, this is something that we make at Jerk Hut. We kind of combine everything, and this has, just about everything that make jerk taste like jerk. So you could kind of take this home, add some butter to it, and make hot wings or whatever, or pour it over a steak like a steak sauce. But anyway, going back to what our Jamaican food is. So the Arawak Indians, they gave us jerk. They showed us how to use what the Spanish people call yuca, cassava. The Africans came and they brought like the root vegetables like yam and cocoa and all that kind of stuff. The English came with their puddings and pickled meats, like spices. The Indians that came to work on the plantations, they brought us the curry, hence curry goat is a very very popular thing in Jamaica. And then the Chinese came and they gave us, just about every Jamaican dish, rice. So the rice and the stir fried and, cutting meat small, to cook it. And then the Middle Eastern people, they brought their kibbeh and hummus and all that kind of stuff. So we're really like a literal, mixing pot of all of these different things, from all these different places in the world. And with each culture that came to Jamaica, that settled there, they, what they couldn't find, they kind of like, picked something closely that we actually grew there and added to there. So,
how awesome! You've preserved your culture, and it's just all that mixture is just wonderful. And you've paid homage to all the forefathers that went to Jamaica and kept it there, and your food represents that.
Yep.
And it's so good.
Yep. It's I would say it's very fresh, very interesting.
Very
food. Very
interesting.
interesting food. Yeah.
You know, I love Jamaican food. My best friend in high school was Jamaican, and I spent a month there in the summer one year. But I look at this one block that you're on, and in downtown Tampa, you have Jamaican, Mexican, Italian, Thai, Indian. It's just awesome on this one block.
I feel like I'm in Jamaica again. Yeah.
You have a lot of people come here because you can't get this just anywhere. What is your biggest seller here?
Our biggest seller, I gotta say, our biggest seller in here would be the jerk chicken.
The jerk chicken.
Yeah, we have all types coming in here at lunchtime to get their jerk chicken.
My favorites are the patties. I love the patties.
The patties that we have here, we actually make them from scratch. You know.
Not an easy process, is it?
No, it's not. It's not. Making just the crust alone is a pretty drawn out process. You know, because we have to make it where it's nice and flaky and flavorful. You know, kind of like a pie crust. You know, so. And then we make different fillings for it. Like we have a beef, we have a jerk chicken, we have a curry chicken, we have vegetable, and then we use a whole wheat crust for that. And then we also have something that kind of looks and tastes like spinach. We call that callaloo.
Okay.
We have all of those. And we keep on adding different things. You know, people go, "Why don't you make some, you know, lobster patties?" And we've been making some of that too. So.
Oh, how interesting. So you just keep building.
Yeah, we keep building it up.
And people come here to find things they can't find anywhere else.
Yep, they do.
And the Jerk Hut, you've been in downtown Tampa for quite a while.
Yeah, I think we opened this one probably back in 2004.
But this isn't your only one.
No, we have our main flagship store is on Fowler Avenue up in North Tampa near USF. And that one we have, you know, a huge dining room, a party room, and we do full liquor, and we have a separate takeout area. So, you know, we have things going on down there. And then we have another small express location down in Gandy for the South Tampa residents. That's right down on Gandy Boulevard, and that's just like a drive-through kind of walk-up kind of thing.
Good. So I know you're big at lunchtime because I see you at lunchtime, but downtown Tampa now is getting a lot of nightlife going on. Are you open in the evenings?
We are. To be honest with you, when we first got here, maybe like, you know, 2004, at 2:30, you could probably just roll up the sidewalks. There was nobody down here, you know. Now what we have Sky Point across the street. We have condos down here. People are actually living down here. You see, you know, people emerging in the afternoon. You know, they're coming down and they're walking the streets and stuff. So that's really good. We're actually developing a really nice downtown. So I'm excited.
How exciting! Yeah, and
we're
it'd be great
excited.
to come down for a happy hour, have a good reggae band going.
Yeah, man. High school red stripe. Yeah, really, really nice.
Yeah, it's really, really exciting. Tell me a little bit about the entertainment, because I know you said you had bands come out.
Yeah, we do. We have a band down here, and we usually back it up with some kind of buffet that kind of draws people more, you know. So you come in here on a Friday evening, and we do like a little happy hour buffet. We have bucket specials. But the bands that we use down here are really good. They play a little bit of reggae, a little bit of soca, and they get you moving.
Yeah, I'm sure they do.
Moving, yeah.
You have to work off your food, right?
That's
Your
right,
jerk
that's
chicken.
right.
So obviously you are from Jamaica. How long have you been here?
Actually, I moved to America to go to school at USF. I came here in 1986.
Go Bulls.
So, you go Bulls, that's right.
And you stayed here.
And I stayed here, yep. And I have 4 kids, and Tampa is now my home. You know, I think I'm always going to be here in Tampa.
Good. Do you see a big Jamaican population here, Andrew?
Actually, you know, the Jamaican population here is really, really growing rapidly. You know, a lot of people are moving down from New York, and there's a lot of people actually moving up from South Florida up to Tampa. So, you know, over the years, we've seen a really, really big increase in our Jamaican population, to the point where we have to, you know, go back to adding some more, you know, items on the menu that we never carried before, just for our Jamaican people.
Wow, looking for the good, authentic stuff. You can.
That's right.
Tell me a little bit about some of the exciting new dishes coming to the menu.
Like brand new dish coming to our menu. We did a little spin on our escovitch fish. Instead of using fish, we have another menu item now. We decided to use some shrimp. So we do like a fried shrimp, and then we put the escovitch sauce on it. And the escovitch is kind of like
It's
like a little Jamaican, like a little Jamaican pickle. We use vinegar, hot peppers, some sliced onions, and we just kind of sit in there, let it marinate. We put some pimento berries in it, and when you spoon that over some nice fried shrimp, it's really, really, really good.
Oh, I'm gonna have to come sample it out then. You gotta let me know when it's up on the menu.
Yeah, man. Good stuff. Good stuff.
Good, good, good. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate you sharing everything with me, Andrew, and I can't wait to eat some of the new stuff as well as some of the old regular ones.
Yeah, man. Come on down.
Okay.
And we do a whole bunch of stuff for catering. We're a big time caterer. We cater any event, small or large.
Just give you a call.
So let us cater your next event.
All right, sounds good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our tropical paradise here in Tampa is the picture of summer. But there's one price of living in year-round paradise. It happens every June through November, hurricane season. It's that time of year again. Make sure you're prepared. At the City of Tampa's Office of Emergency Management, plans are well underway to be sure you and your family are safe, not only during this hurricane season, but always.
The release and immediate release requires, and so that requires an increase in insurance.
What are some of the things that we should be thinking of as we enter hurricane season?
Well, I think the most important thing is to be informed. Now, there are several ways to be informed, but the most important thing that you can do if you're a resident of Tampa Bay is to register for Alert Tampa. By registering for Alert Tampa and becoming kind of keyed in to how the city operates and receiving those notifications of an impending disaster or emergency, you can be informed. And once you're informed, you can make a very good decision. So the most important thing is to visit Alert Tampa, the website, and register.
And that can be found on the Tampa Gov website, correct?
Yes, tampagov.net,
Perfect.
Alert Tampa, definitely. And also another very important thing to do is to make sure that you're reading the newspaper, seeing when things are coming up, that you're listening to the radio, that you're hearing when things are happening, and also that you're watching the television and paying close attention to the meteorologists as they're advising of potential severe weather impacts. And the thing about it is that tornadoes can happen very quickly. So one thing we'd also like for our residents to do is make sure they have a weather radio so they can receive those advisories. You know, there are so many things that our residents can do. It's really about being prepared to survive. No matter what is coming, be prepared, and you can do that by staying informed.
Right, right, right. And I have to tell you, I have a neighbor down the street, elderly woman, wheelchair. I know she's not going to get online, doesn't have a computer. I'm not even sure if she watches TV.
Yeah.
I'm going to look out for her. What kind of things can she do? I don't think she has family.
Yes.
There's others like her, many others. What can those special needs folks do?
Well, there are quite a few things, but what we can do is we can actually be good neighbors to our neighbors who are not able to access the television, the computer, to receive those alerts. You know, we have the luxury of receiving information through a very mainstream format.
Right.
However, everyone doesn't have that capability. So we also, as a city, we prepare and plan for those residents as well. So one thing we'd like to promote as much as possible is for every resident to be a good neighbor. Take care of those elderly neighbors. Take care of those neighbors who don't have access to televisions or the computer. Take care of those neighbors who have no family members. But also, if you are elderly and if you do know that you have a medical condition, what we'd like you to do is register to receive special needs shelter provisions during a storm, so that if something does occur, we know about you and we can actually send the Sunshine Line to pick you up. And if you're in need of oxygen or some other form of medical assistance, we know about that if you register for the special needs registry. So.
Wow, that's perfect. That's just awesome that the City of Tampa does that, because at a time of a disaster, that's when we really need to look out for each other and help each other.
That's right. That's right.
And now as we're preparing, you know, when you go to buy your case of water, buy two if John Doe down the street doesn't have one.
Exactly. That's a great mindset. I love that because it's so positive. That's the way to do it. If everyone is thinking about someone else, then we take care of each other. And that's really what we want to do. We all want to be able to say that we are taking good care of one another. And if we do that, should something happen in Tampa Bay, we will recover that much more quickly.
Right, right. And you just brought up a really good point. Should something happen, you know, hopefully it doesn't. Like I said, we've been very fortunate.
We have.
But let's just say something happens. Tell me a little bit about what we can expect, what we need to be doing post hurricane.
Yes, post-storm, that's a very critical time period. And it's critical because most people are prepared for what happens before the storm. But what we'd like you to do is be prepared for before, during, and after. And sometimes the recovery time period, which is after the storm, can be the most challenging.
Right.
Sometimes we expect the government to come in within 72 hours and restore everything back to normal. It doesn't quite happen that way.
Right.
And as you may have seen with Superstorm Sandy, it doesn't happen as fluidly as sometimes we would like for it to. And that's because of the existing infrastructure, politics, all sorts of things could impact it. The federal government approach to recovery and all those things, it all has to come together to make a smooth recovery, and sometimes it doesn't happen that way. So what we need to do as residents is we need to be prepared for a long-term recovery process, more than 72 hours. So that being the case, we need to have that much more in our disaster supply kit. We need to have that much more in our family disaster preparedness plan to survive even more than the initial three-day period. Also, it's very important for residents to know their insurance limits, their coverage levels. It's very important to know exactly what you already have in your house. Take pictures of the items so that you can recover those or at least be reimbursed for them should your home be destroyed. So it's just about being proactive. Being very proactive within your family and helping others as well to be proactive.
You think, okay, I'll call my insurance company and it's in this paper in this file cabinet. Well, that file cabinet is not going to probably be there.
May not be there, right?
So you have to have that number, the
Yes.
policy number. So it's just great things that people don't think of.
Exactly. There's so much that could be going on, and we haven't even mentioned the emotional impacts of disaster, which sometimes cause you to not really think about what you need to do. There's chaos going on. So you sometimes need to have all that stuff in place before so that if something does happen, it's a smooth transition. And once again, you can recover and get back to normal just that much faster if you're prepared in advance for the recovery piece.
Right. And it's just awesome that the Office of Emergency Management, working together with our first responders, our police and fire, who are trained to stay calm during these things. You've done the thinking for us.
Yes.
And you have all that available at the expo, but if not, they can always contact our website, contact your office, learn about.
Yes, we would love that. And we also love to come out into our communities. We visit the churches, we visit our neighborhood associations, we come out and we do presentations. We love the face-to-face interaction with our citizens, with our residents here, because we learn so much, and also we're able to share so much good information. We're bursting with information that we want to let everyone know about so that if anything happens here, they're ready, they're prepared, and they know just what to do.
Yeah, it's an awesome service that the city of Tampa provides. And Tampa Fire Rescue has a certain number, the police department has a certain number of staff, but it really requires everyone to be involved and do their part for us to be able to move forward.
As they say, it takes a village, right?
That's right. That's right. That's right. I just thought of something. So the phone lines go down. How about my family that's trying to reach me, or I'm trying to reach them? What should we do to plan so that they'll know Adri's safe, Chauncey is safe, where we are? What should we do?
Well, you said it yourself. We need to plan. It's planning in advance. Develop that family communications plan. Most people are caught in sort of a rut when a disaster happens because they haven't done that pre-planning. They haven't done that planning in advance. So what I would suggest is have a family communications plan. That plan consists of having the numbers for everyone in your local area who you need to reach out to, who's there with you, your children, your husband, your wife, all that good stuff. But also have a phone number for a family member that's not in the state. Someone that everyone can call and kind of report in and say, hey, Aunt Susie, I'm okay. I'm at this location. If anyone is looking for me, they can find me here. And so that helps out a lot because sometimes, like we said, there's a lot of chaos post-disaster.
Absolutely, absolutely, and it prevents Aunt Susie from calling and Adri's not answering, so call 911. Well, 911 really has emergencies to tend to, and Adri could be up the street at a friend's house. So
exactly.
That's really good.
Yeah, it's just about planning and having a plan for that recovery period, and that's part of it, is to just be prepared for what happens after. Most people never think it'll happen to them. Right. And that's what a lot of the people in Hurricane Katrina said, it'll never happen here. Well, guess what? Tampa Bay is #1 in terms of vulnerability for a hurricane. We are #1. New Orleans is #3. We are #1. So we really need to be prepared, ready, and prepared to strive, thrive, and stay alive.
Well, I tell you what, I'm really glad that your office and your team hasn't become complacent like many people have. You know, we're going to be okay. We've been okay every year, because this may be the year that we're not okay.
Exactly.
And I understand you all are the leaders in terms of even getting that communication out. You're the one that reached out to Mosey just to keep getting that word out, because it's so important.
It's so important. And Tampa is a very proactive city. It's a city filled with innovation. We like to take care of our residents. We like the face-to-face interaction, the comfort level. We want them to know what's going to happen before it happens, and we want them to have a good plan for how to respond when it does happen. So yes, a lot of times we're very proactive. We will call our business community. We will offer to do exercises, because we know that recovery, 80% of recovery is actually going to be assisted and come from our business community. So we don't just do a lot of government planning. We partner with our local businesses to make sure that they're prepared to offer those services to our residents post-disaster.
Right.
So the same way we prepare our residents, we do the exact same thing with our local business community as well.
Right, so you don't just talk the talk, you walk the walk. You have a plan, a drill coming up soon.
Yes, June 11th, the city is going to do its annual severe weather exercise, and that's every department. Now that in itself is a major feat, because we have a lot of departments. However, every department has to test their emergency plan, and they set their own objectives, and they are really exercising around one particular scenario. And this scenario is a very challenging one this year that involves a tornado, a lot of debris management, a lot of injuries, and we play it and we do it very realistically in the city, because we know that how you prepare is how you will respond. Okay, so we do it and we play it very realistically, and we actually get so much out of it, and we take those lessons learned and we apply them immediately to our plan.
Well, that is perfect, Chauncey. Thank you so much for making sure Tampa government does its part, and now we just need our community to reach out and join us in that effort, and hopefully we'll be okay again this year, but if not, we'll be prepared.
Exactly.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Now that our hurricane kits are in order, it's time to relax. Escape the summer heat and head to downtown's historic movie palace, the Tampa Theater. It first opened its doors in 1926 and has a history that's woven into the fabric of our city. The theater's director of marketing, Jill Watecki, shares the story of the Tampa Theater. Jill, thank you so much for taking time to meet with me today and just share with me some of the history. This building was opened in 1926.
Our pleasure. We have been here for 86 years providing entertainment to Tampa.
And let me tell you, 1926. Take me back in time. What kind of movies were you showing in 1926?
The headline on the Tampa Morning Tribune that morning was about the Tampa Theater's grand opening, October 15th, 1926. We were the first commercial building in Tampa to have air conditioning. So you can imagine that that was very popular in Florida, and this was the place that people flocked. Those first movies in 1926 would cost you 25 cents to come in. And movies back then were a little bit different. One, they didn't have sound. So we were a silent movie house. And two, it wasn't like today where you look at the papers and you decide what time you want to go to the film, what time the screening is. People would just come in, and they'd sit through the end of one movie and stay for the beginning of the next screening and just sit here all day long sometimes.
So how would you know if let's just say it's packed and I want to get in and watch the movie, how could I know if there's a seat available for me?
Well, we have 1,446 seats in our auditorium, so we could fit a lot of people. But back then, the lobby looked a little bit different than it does now. You wouldn't just walk in and get your seat. You would actually queue up like you would see at a theme park or for a roller coaster. And there was a system of telephones. And of course, back then we had ushers. You've seen them with their coats and their caps. And they would call to each other on those telephones and say, hey, I've got 2 seats open, somebody just left. So you would get in the queue, and when your number came up, you would be escorted to your seats and sit there as long as you like.
How neat is that? This building though, the architecture, it's just amazing. Tell me a little bit about the design and just this building.
This place was built by an architect named John Eberson. He was a Chicago architect who was known for his theaters at the time. Now, back in the 20s, a lot of the theaters were built to look like opera houses. That's what people were familiar with. So you would see a lot of velvet curtains, a lot of crystal chandeliers, and the box seats along the walls. And Eberson built a lot of those, but then as his career developed, he started getting into what he called atmospheric theaters. He wanted to build a theater that would transport his audiences to another place in time. So for the Tampa Theater, he built what he envisioned as a Mediterranean courtyard. If you look up at our ceiling, it looks like you're outside. And in fact, when you get into the auditorium, there's stars in the ceiling that twinkle like a night sky. So we know that he built a lot of theaters like this, but we also know, based on the notes that he left behind, that Tampa Theater was his favorite.
This building is just absolutely beautiful, and there's so much detail. I mean, there's birds. Tell me a little bit about the birds.
There are birds. There were a couple of things that were hallmarks of Eberson's style. One was that he built things with plaster. So if you look around, what looks like tile, what looks like wood, if you look up what looks like stone, all of that was made of plaster. Now there were 2 reasons for that. One was because plaster was much cheaper than velvet and crystal and gold leaf, so he could build his theaters for less money. 2 was that Eberson owned a plaster company, so he was kind of paying himself to build his own theaters. But another hallmark of the Eberson theaters are birds. He loved birds. So as you walk around the theater, keep your eyes open, because in our lobby we've got 2 macaws hanging from the ceiling. As you go into the auditorium, you'll see a peacock on the railing and doves up around the rooftop. We know that he put birds in all of his theaters, and we know that on the opening nights of those theaters, so for us back in October of 1926, Eberson would come to the grand opening, and he would thank all the guests, and he would make his speeches and shake hands. And then as he was leaving for the evening, he would make sure that he was the last one out of the theater, and he would leave a bag of birdseed on the stage next to the ghost light with a little note that said, "For my birds."
How interesting. Do you have any idea how much this building cost to build in 1926?
Well, in today's dollars, it would cost you about $15 million. But back then, adjusting for inflation, you were looking at between $1.5 million and $2 million. There's a lot to spend on a theater back then.
Absolutely, absolutely. And how long did it take to build this building?
This only took about 1.5 years. And it was built using a lot of local craftspeople. So even though Eberson was down from the north, there was a lot of local Tampa talent and artistry that went into building this.
Now, were there other theaters downtown?
There were. We were actually one of 3 theaters that were within a very tight circle here. But back then there were a lot of theaters in downtown areas, the Fox in Atlanta and what is now called the Gusman in Miami. You would see these grand movie palaces in the metropolitan areas because back then in the 1920s, this is what people did for entertainment. There was no TV. Live stage events were a little too expensive for your normal average everyday person. So more than 40 million Americans a week were coming to the movies in the 1940s. But then television was invented, and then people started moving out of the downtown corridor into the suburbs. And that's when you started seeing a lot of these grand palaces deteriorate, and they started to close because they couldn't support themselves. If you look at a theater like the Tampa, you've got 1 screen and 1,400 seats. If you look at your average everyday movie palace or movie theater now, you're looking at 20 screens and maybe 150 seats because they want to be able to show all those different movies and get people in. Ours is a business model that really doesn't exist in movies anymore. So the Tampa was very lucky that we were able to survive the move to the suburbs. Back in the 60s, when they started divesting the studios of their theater. See, back then, when you had a movie studio, like Paramount, which is who built us, you would have a studio that shot and produced the movie, distributed the movie, and then showed the movie. They were handling all three arms of the movie going experience. Well, when antitrust legislation started to come into effect, the government told them that you have to get rid of one. You can't do all three. So they kept the production, they kept the distribution, which were the two most profitable arms, and they got rid of the theaters. So all of a sudden, these theaters that had been supported by studio money all this time were on their own. They had new owners, and a lot of them closed. So we were very lucky.
Yes, and this building is actually on the list of National Register of Historic Places. Is that correct?
It is. Back in the 60s, when something had to happen, the owners of the studio went to the city of Tampa and said, this building is almost 50 years old. It's a gem in the Tampa community. We need the city to buy it. And the city said, nah, we're not interested. So it went back and forth, and they said, all right, what if we sold it to you for $1? Would you protect it then? And the city said, you know what, we're not in the movie industry. We don't want it. So back and forth for several months, and finally, by a vote of 4-3 in the city council, the city of Tampa decided to buy Tampa Theater for $1 and protect it. And it was soon after that we were appointed to the National Register of Historic Places, which does protect the building, and fortunately we will be here for just as many years to come as we have been already.
Yes, and I am so glad they did. You know, I brought my children here because we have the Mayor's Hispanic Heritage Celebration here. My mother used to come here and watch Elvis films because she loves that. So, you know, I'm so glad that my children had the opportunity to come here and see this.
Well, and that's the beauty of some of the programming that we have. When we're able to show some of those classic movies, we have generations of people coming back, grandmothers bringing their grandchildren and telling them the stories of coming here 50 and 60 years ago. And, you know, we host more than 30,000 school kids a year.
Currently.
Here.
Now, in 2013.
With our educational programming, we have field trips several times a week. And that's the first time a lot of these kids ever come into this building. It was the first time I came to this building, was on a field trip in high school, and walked in here and fell in love with the place, and have been finding reasons to come back ever since.
Oh my goodness, and once you're here, you're hooked, huh?
I can't tell you how many people I see walk in. You can tell the ones that are here for the first time because they walk in the door and go,
yeah,
you
yeah,
see
it's
that
just in
face
awe.
and you know.
You know, speaking of people never wanting to leave, I hear that there's a ghost around here. Is that true?
Who has never left.
Doesn't want to leave.
That's Fink. We had a projectionist in the 1950s named Foster Finley, and he was really good at what he did. Now, back then, when films were projected primarily on 35mm film, the film would come in these big reels, and each reel held 20 minutes of film. So you would have two projectors, and you would load the first reel on one and the second reel on the other. And the way that the projectionist knew when it was time to switch was there were these little marks that would show up in the corner of the screen. And when those marks happened, that was his cue to switch from one projector to the other. Now, a good projectionist could make that switch with the exact amount of precision that the audiences would never know that anything had happened. And Foster was good at what he did, and he loved being here. Unfortunately, as he got older, he did suffer a heart attack. Not here, not in the building, but his health never recovered, and after about 2 months, he passed away. So we were in the market for a new projectionist. We got the new projectionist, he was up in the booth, he knew he had big shoes to fill, so he was really intent on being as good as Fink had been. And that first film, right at the moment that he was trying to focus on those marks and make that switch, according to the story, the door of the booth slammed, everything fell off the table, the lights blinked, everything that could happen to throw his concentration and make sure he didn't make the change. Needless to say, we went through a lot of projectionists in that time period, a lot of turnover, until we finally found a couple of people that Fink would leave alone long enough to do what they needed to do. So there are still people that work here. In fact, some of our staff that works out in the box office and some of the others who have been here for decades swear that they have seen and heard things in the theater that they can't explain. Footsteps on the stairs, doors opening and closing, lights turning on and off that shouldn't be, and all of that is attributed to Fink. Now, I kind of feel bad for him because there's a lot of other things that get attributed to Fink too. when our internet router goes down, when the copy machine stops working. We don't blame any of that on the fact that we have 86-year-old wiring. Obviously, it's got to be the ghost.
Absolutely. Of course it's fake. Of course it's fake. I love coming here. And do you still show current movies, or is it just the old movies, or what do you show here, Jill?
It's funny because a lot of people, when I tell them where it is that I work every day, they say, "Oh, you're that old theater that shows old movies." And that's partially true. We do show a lot of classics. We have our summer classic series every year. We have our holiday classics that are incredibly popular. But the bulk of our business is first-run movies. There's a lot of movies that come out, your action films, your Bond movies, that they want to show on as many screens as possible. They're blockbusters, and that makes sense. But there's a lot of those little independent films that come out that want a little bit more special of a release. So there have been films like The Artist, The King's Speech, Moonrise Kingdom, Beasts of the Southern Wild. And if any of those sound familiar to you, it's probably because they won Oscars.
Yeah.
That's the caliber of movie we're talking about that wants a little bit smaller of an opening. All of those films, we were the exclusive in Tampa for them.
Well, and you just said something that it made me think. Oscars. You have a big Oscars event here every year too. Red carpet.
Exactly. We are one of the only venues in the country that is allowed to have a sanctioned Oscar night event. It's a program called Oscar Experience, and it's actually a fundraiser that the Academy is allowing in certain venues. And so that's one of our biggest fundraisers every year. We do roll out the red carpet. We show the broadcast live in the auditorium. And of course, we have a big party and champagne. And it's a wonderful experience. And it's a great fundraiser for the theater. It supports our educational programming.
Yeah, what a great opportunity to get all dressed up to come to this beautiful building and celebrate.
Sequins from one end to the other.
Oh, I bet. And you said fundraisers. I mean, you have members here to keep this alive. Tell me a little bit about your fundraisers and your membership opportunities.
We do. One thing that people do not assume when they see this building is that we're a nonprofit organization. So it's through the generosity of our members, our donors, and the community that we're able to keep doing what we're doing. So we do have a membership program that there's several different levels, and at each level you get a little bit different benefits, from free movie tickets to the ability to buy concert tickets earlier than the general public, up into the higher levels where we can acknowledge you on the screen, we can put your name on the marquee outside, anywhere from one person coming in and an entry-level membership can be $50 up into the thousands of dollars range if you've got an organization or a corporation that wants to do something like that. But that's the money that keeps us running.
Exciting. And you said concerts. So you have performances here as well. It's not just movies.
Primarily we do movies. We were built as a movie house, but we do have some live concerts throughout the year. People ask us often, why don't we do big musicals? Why can't we see Phantom of the Opera at Tampa Theater? The reason for that is because the stage we have in there is very small. When you get behind the curtain line, there's a screen and a wall, because we were built for movies, not like the Strauss Center that was built for these great stage productions. But when it comes to small concerts, acoustic shows, stand-up comedy, children's puppet theater, things that don't require a lot of space in the wings or a lot of depth to the stage, we love doing stuff like that.
And you've had some really big names perform here.
We have. On our stage, we've had Annie Lennox, we've had Weird Al Yankovic, we've had B.B. King. Just in the past year, we've had the Old Crow Medicine Show, which was a great show. And then every year, our favorites, Rockapella, comes back for a Christmas show.
How awesome. And with downtown really coming alive, we have the restaurants here, we have the Riverwalk. What a great place to come and spend some time.
Tampa Theater was here when Tampa boomed the first time. It's been here the whole time that everything was struggling, and now that Tampa's starting to come back, we're still here on Franklin Street, opening our doors 600 times a year for anybody who wants to stop by.
Perfect. So we can have them contact you, they could do the tour, they could come be a member, they can come catch a film.
TampaTheater.org, it's got all of the information. We're also on Facebook, and if you go on our website and sign up for our e-newsletter, I personally will email you every week with everything that's going on.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jill. I appreciate you sharing all this with me.